Chapter 28. How can they expect us to get ready in such a short time? Crazy. Plane tickets and permission slips, paperwork and practice. Practice every day for close to 2 weeks. Study every evening with Mrs. V. Words, cities, states, countries, capitals, oceans, rivers, colors, diseases, weather, numbers, dates, animals, kings, queens, birds, insects, wars, presidents, planets, authors, generals, laws, quotations, measurements, equations, definitions. My head has been spinning nonstop with facts and figures, but I'm ready now. Our team is ready. Mr. D kept his promise. The six highest scorers from all our practice rounds were announced at the last practice session a few days ago. Of course, just like the other kids, I had been keeping a mental tally of everybody's points, so I was pretty sure I'd be one of the on-air contestants, not an alternate. Mr. Dimming almost glowed with anticipation as he made the announcement. He paced nervously, a little more, and the man would be dancing. "Here we go," he said. "I feel like I need a drum roll or something." "Read the list, please," Connor shouted impatiently. Mr. Dimming said slowly, "The six members of the championship Spalding Street Elementary School quiz team are." He paused. I thought Connor was going to throw something at him. "Rose, Connor, Melody, Elena, Rodney, and Molly. Claire and Amanda will be our alternates." "I'm an alternate?" Claire gasped. "Molly beat you by 2 points, Claire," Mr. D explained. "But you still get to come with us and cheer us on and tour the city." "But it was me who helped her study," Claire said, outrage in her voice. "That is so not fair." I just shook my head and smiled a little. There is so much Claire doesn't know about stuff not being fair. Molly looked smug and not at all sorry. Her mother came to pick her up, and the practice was over. "The competition is tomorrow, Thursday evening. Assuming we win, we'll have the Good Morning America appearance on Friday, followed by a trip to the White House. More sightseeing in D.C. is planned for Saturday. Then we come home on Sunday. On Monday, hopefully, we'll return to school as national champions with that trophy. So tonight we pack. I've never been on a trip before away from home before, so we have some serious planning to do. I feel crazy excited, crazy nervous. Dad bought me a bright red suitcase with wheels. It smells like the inside of a new car. Touching it makes me smile. Mom and I went shopping yesterday, something we don't get to do much anymore. She let me choose a couple of new outfits with jeans, none of those practical baggy sweatsuits for this trip. As we rolled down the mall, we passed a card shop. I had a brainstorm and tapped on my board. "Go in, get card, please." "For whom?" Mom asked as we wheeled in there. "Catherine," I typed, to thank her for helping me get ready. "How very grown up of you," Mom said, clearly pleased. "One for Mrs. V, too?" I tapped out. "Absolutely." The card we found for Mrs. V could have not been more perfect. The front was completely covered with hundreds of oranges, except for one blue one in the middle. Inside it said, "You're one in a million. Thanks." "She'll love it," Mom said. For Catherine, I picked out a card that showed a desk full of computers and MP3 players and video games and a young woman connected to all of them with earphones. It read, "Glad you're always there to plug into me. Thanks for all you do." "You couldn't have designed those better yourself," Mom said as she paid for the cards. "Yep, pretty perfect." Around 7 o'clock, the doorbell rings. It's Mrs. V coming over to help with the final packing preparations. She and Mom make a great team. "I've made a checklist according to Mr. Dimming's suggestions," Mom says. "Black skirt and white blouse for the competition." "Check," Mrs. V says as she nearly folds those two pieces into my suitcase. "Check," Penny mimics. "Extra white blouse, just in case," Mommy says. "Great idea," Mrs. V replies, nodding. Mom carefully folds in two more shirts and my favorite pair of jeans. Comfortable outfits for sightseeing in Washington, spending money for souvenirs, sunglasses, camera. "Check, check, check," Mrs. V repeats. Pajamas, toothbrush, deodorant, hair clips. All there. A warm jacket. No telling what this March weather will do. "Check," Penny cries. Power pack for MediTalker, extra batteries, tissues, and wipes. "Got it." "Umbrella? For you or for Melody?" Mrs. V asks with a laugh. Do you have your bag packed?" "Yeah, I'm just about ready." "I'm nervous too," Mom pauses. "You're the best, Violet. I know Penny will be safe with you while we're gone." "And butterscotch," I interrupt. They both laugh. Mom continues. "Frankly, without you, there is no way that Melanie would be packing for this trip." "Get card, Mom," I type. I reach my hand to the side, but I can barely touch the edge of my book bag hanging on my chair. Mom reaches into the bag, pulls out the envelope, and sets it on my tray. I push it towards Mrs. V. She opens it, reads it, then squeezes me so hard I can hardly catch my breath. "This one goes on my refrigerator door," she says quietly. "I want to look at it every single day." She busies herself then with dusting off a pair of my shoes that have never taken a step. I'm a little scared, I admit. Nonsense, Mellow Yellow, Mrs. V tells me. I fully expect to see you on Good Morning America with that 10-foot high trophy. That would be awesome, I type. Now, tell me once more, Mrs. V says to Mom. What time does the plane leave tomorrow? Penny, take Melody's underwear off your head, you silly girl. Mom checks her papers. Plane leaves at noon. That means we should leave here no later than 9. Get to the airport by 10, get all checked in, make sure her wheelchair is properly taken care of and such. Then we can relax until it's time to board the plane. Mrs. V scratches her head. I wonder why they chose the noon flight. That will get you into Washington around 2. The competition starts at 7. That's cutting it a little close. Mr. Dimming told us the hotel has a late check-in policy. The TV studio is just across the street from the hotel, so we'll be fine. As mom closes and zips my suitcase, I feel tears come into my eyes. I can't believe this is happening. In just one day, I will be in Washington, D.C. on national television. I pray I won't screw up. I want to call Rose and see if she's nervous too. I want to ask her what she'll wear to the White House. Suppose we get to meet the First Lady. Now that would be the bomb. I want to know if we'll be sitting near each other on the plane. I want to be like all the other girls. I don't sleep well that night. In the morning, Mom gets me bathed and dressed and fed in record time while Dad gets Penny ready. Go see plane? She asked repeatedly. Fly, wee, Dad says as he flies around the room in his arms. She loves it. We head outside and Mrs. V hurries over, camera in hand. She snaps pictures of me getting strapped in, my suitcase being loaded, and my brave and hopeful victory smile. Then she does it all over again with Dad's camcorder. No, we'll never be able to forget this morning. Penny darts about, chasing Butterscotch, running in circles around the car, which has been washed and shined. Mom, dressed in a cool denim suit and a pair of late-style Nikes, loads our bags in the car, and we're totally ready to go by 8:45. Dad takes Butterscotch back into the house, then locks the front door on his way out. All set, he asks. Let's do it, Mom yells. Even Penny can feel the excitement. She claps her hands. I can't stop grinning. Even though I know we have plenty of time, I keep wanting Dad to drive faster. I'm so afraid that we'll miss the plane, or that we forgot my ticket, or that I'll throw up, and we'll have to go back home. At the airport garage, we have no trouble finding a row of empty handicapped parking spaces. We unload me, my chair, our bags, and Penny and Doodle. Mrs. V snaps more photos. It seems like hours, but in minutes, we're at the check-in gate. Mrs. V pushes me. Mom carries Penny. Dad pulls a cartload with the luggage and Doodle. It's 10 o'clock on the dot. Hi, Mom says cheerfully to the uniformed lady at the desk. We're here to check in for the noon flight to Washington, D.C. She hands the lady our tickets. The noon flight? The woman replies with a frown. She types and clicks, purses her lips, then types some more. Finally, she looks up. I'm sorry, ma'am, but that flight has been canceled. We've had loads of cancellation today. A late winter snowstorm in the Northeast has caused backup all over. Canceled? My stomach starts to gurgle. Snow? Mom's voice sounds thick. But the weather here is sunny and clear. They've got 5 inches on the ground in Boston already, and more is predicted for this afternoon farther south. The FFA won't let planes take off in weather like that, so our whole system gets gummed up. Planes due to arrive here and then return eastward gets canceled, meaning our afternoon flights can't depart. It's complicated. Sorry. The desk agent continues to type rapidly. She tells Mom, I can get you and your daughter on the next direct flight out. However, it leaves here at 7:23 p.m. and will get you into Washington at 9:07. The Weather Service has predicted that the storm system will have fizzled by then, so we can start getting folks where they need to be. Actually, tomorrow it will be all rain. My heart is thudding now. Would you like me to rebook you now? She smiles cheerfully. She doesn't get it. But the competition starts at 7, Mom mumbles weakly. Excuse me, I didn't hear you, the desk agent says. I can't breathe. Mom speaks a little louder. What about the rest of our group? We're traveling together, a group of school children, a quiz team, actually. They were also booked on this flight. We've got a competition this evening. Oh, I remember those kids. They were here early this morning. Great group, so polite and well-mannered. They told me all about the competition and the huge trophy they might be bringing home. They came early? Mom croaks. It seems they all went to breakfast together, then came straight here. It's a good thing they did too, or they wouldn't have gotten out. Where are they? Mom asks. Oh, they got switched to the 9 o'clock flight, the last eastbound plane to get out before flights started getting canceled. They had to run down to the gate, but they made it just in time. I made sure of it. She looks down at her computer. Yes, that flight left about an hour ago. They're gone? Mom whispers. I feel like I'm going to choke. Are you and your family going to DC to cheer them on? The woman asks. She still doesn't get it. No, my daughter is on the team, Mom explains. We must get to Washington. Isn't there another flight, perhaps on another airline? The woman looks at me and blinks. She starts to ask, but then she catches herself, returns her gaze to the monitor, and begins typing furiously once more. I can hear her fingernails as they click on the keys. Dad places both hands on the ticket counter and leans in toward the agent. I've never seen him so angry. How could this happen? Shouldn't we have been notified that the flight was canceled? We try, sir, but it's not always possible, the lady replies, sounding truly sorry. We do always advise passengers to call ahead and check their flight status. But this was the trip of a lifetime. You can't possibly understand how important this is to my daughter. I squeeze my eyes shut. Stupid elevator music floats from the tiny airport speakers. I hear no beautiful colors. I smell no lovely aromas. All I can see is the darkness behind my eyeballs. I'm really, really sorry, sir, the lady says. What about a connecting flight? We must get her to Washington this afternoon. The woman types and clicks for what seems like hours. Finally, she looks up. There are no other flights to DC on any other carriers, sir, nonstop or otherwise. The weather system has grounded everything. There will be nothing until later this evening. I am so sorry, she whispers. I open my eyes because they are filled with tears. Dad walks away from the ticket counter, his face scrunched into tight wrinkles. Then, without warning, he smashes his fist into the wall right next to where I'm sitting. I jerk my head up. I know that had to hurt. Ah, I shouldn't have done that, he admits, holding one fist in the other. But if I could have smashed my fist against a wall, I would have as well. Mrs. V looks from Dad to me. I don't understand how this could have happened either, she says to Mom. Shouldn't someone from the quiz team have called you? Her voice could crush bricks. The teacher, perhaps? Maybe there wasn't time, Mom says helplessly. At least that's what I hope. Surely they wouldn't have left her behind on purpose. I still have not taken one deep breath. I really do apologize, ma'am, the gate agent finally says. I've even checked airports in nearby cities. There are no flights out of the area until this evening. I have plenty of seats on our 7 o'clock flight if you'd like me to book you. No, thank you, Mom says quietly. It's too late. The entire airport feels like a vacuum to me. No sound, no voices, no air. Mom walks slowly toward me. I sit there in my new blue and white outfit with new matching tennis shoes next to my new shiny red suitcase, feeling very, very stupid and angry. How could they do this to me? And helpless. I hate feeling like this. Like when I was little and got stuck on my back like a stupid turtle, there was nothing I could do. Nothing. How long does it take to drive to DC? Mrs. V asks. I don't even look up. I know the answer. 10 hours at the very least, Dad replies, his voice soft. Go fly airplane? Penny asks. No fly today, Dad says, touching her gently on her head with his good hand. Mom rolls me over to a bench on the other side of the check-in area. She kneels down in front of me. She's crying. I don't think I'll ever breathe again. Mom hugs me. It's going to be okay, sweetie. You're still the best, the smartest, the most wonderful girl in the world. Somehow we're going to get over this. No, I won't. Mrs. V wipes her eyes as well. She sits on the bench and takes both my hands in hers. Oh, baby girl, I know this is hard, but there is just no way to get you to Washington. I just sit there. The morning started out like crystal, but the day has turned to broken glass. Chapter 29. When we get home, I ask my mother to put me in bed. I refuse to eat lunch. I try to sleep, but quiz questions and why questions keep flying into my head. Why didn't they call me? Why didn't they tell me about breakfast? Why can't I be like everybody else? I finally cry into my pillow. Butterscotch nudges me with her nose, but I ignore her. They left me on purpose. How could they do that? They left me on purpose. I feel like stomping on something, stomping and stomping and stomping. That makes me even crazier because I can't even do that. I can't even get mad like a normal kid. Penny peeks into my room. Then, when she sees I'm awake, she climbs up on my bed and snuggles close to me. She smells like watermelon bubble bath. She tries to count my fingers, then tries to count her own. But all she knows is 1, 2, 3, 5, so she says that over and over. Then she tries to teach Doodle to count. 2, Doodle, 2. I feel myself relaxing a tiny bit. Oh, here you are, Penny, Dad says from my doorway. Are you making Dee Dee happy? Dee Dee, good girl, she tells Dad. Yes, she is that, the very best. Dad agrees. You okay, Melody? He asks as he comes over to stroke my hair. I nod. I point to Dad's left wrist, which is wrapped in an ace bandage. Yeah, it hurts, he says. That was a dumb thing to do, but I guess it made me feel better. I nod again. He lifts Penny from my bed with his right arm. Ready for a snack, Miss Penny? He asks her. Hot dogs, she demands. Do you want me to fix you something, Melody? He asks me. I'm not hungry. I shake my head, then point to the clock. Maybe later, Dada says. I smile at him, and he quietly leaves the room with my sister. The phone rings. I hear Mom say, Oh, hello, Mr. Dimming. She walks quietly into my room, portable phone to her ear. Her palms so tight around the receiver I can see the veins on the top of her hand. No, I don't understand, Mom says curtly. Why weren't we called? She listens to him for a minute, then bursts out angrily. We could have easily been at the airport an hour earlier. We could have been there at dawn. She's almost shouting. Do you know how much this has devastated my daughter? Yes, I am aware she's probably the brightest person on the team. Was. The word is was. There is no is. Mom pauses to listen again. You'll make it up to her? You've got to be kidding. Mom hangs up on him and flings the phone into a corner. She wipes her eyes, pulls a tissue from a box on my desk, and sits down heavily on the chair next to my bed. I listen to her blow her nose. Then I turn over. Oh, Melody, if only I could make your hurt go away, she says plaintively. I blink in my own tears. She pulls me up into her lap. It isn't the snuggly fit it used to be, but it feels good. She rocks me, humming softly. I finally fall asleep listening to the rhythm of her heartbeat. Chapter 30. What happened today was all my fault. I should have listened. We should have all stayed home and spent the day together. But we didn't, because of me. When I awoke this morning, it was raining, thunder, lightning, wind, a constant soaking downpour that laughed at umbrellas and raincoats. The air itself was gray and heavy, thick with too much moisture. I could hear it pounding on my window. Dad came into my room and sat down in our old reading chair. He held his wrist carefully. Mom had put his arm in a sling. Messy day out there, he said. I nodded. Your team got beat in one of the late rounds in DC last night, he told me. They got ninth place, a little bitty trophy. But they weren't my team anymore. I tried to pretend like I didn't care. I blinked real hard and faced the wall. I wish I could fix this for you, Melody, Dad said quietly as he headed out of the room. That made the tears fall for real. At first, I didn't want to go to school. I'd been excused because I was supposed to be in Washington, but if I went in, I'd have to sit all day in room H5 with Willie and Maria and Freddie. It seemed pointless. But as I thought about it, I changed my mind. I felt the sorry for myself shift to mad again, and the mad me decided that I was not going to sit at home like a kicked around puppy. I was going to show up and let everybody know they didn't beat me. Mom leaned on my door just then and said, You want to stay home today? No one will blame you. I shook my head forcefully. No, no, no. I kicked the covers off my feet. She sighed. Okay, but the weather is ugly, and I woke up with a migraine. Plus, Penny is sick, and Butterscotch threw up on the carpet. I had to put her in the basement. She got me bathed and dressed and took me downstairs. Usually, Dad carries me up and down the steps, but with his arm out of commission, Mom just grunted, lifted me, and did it herself. She eased me into my manual chair. My electric chair was lightning storms don't mix well. Hooked up my old plexiglass talking board, ditto for Elvira, then sat down to catch her breath. It looks like we're going to have one stormy day, honey, she said as she glanced at the wet mess outside the window. As she ran a brush through my hair, she whispered, I'm so sorry, my Melody. So, so sorry about everything. I reached up and touched her hand. The rain continued to fall. She fixed me breakfast, scrambled eggs and cream of wheat, and fed me, one spoonful at a time. She kept placing her palm against her forehead. She was unusually quiet. I wondered if she was thinking about how many times she had fed me, how many more times she'd have to do it. Wearing a floppy yellow hat and yellow duck-footed sleepers, Penny wandered into the kitchen, coughing and sneezing. Mom stopped feeding me, found a Kleenex, and wiped Penny's nose. She hated that, of course, so she screamed like she was being tortured by enemy spies. Normally, Mom makes a game of it and wipes Doodle's nose as well to make Penny tolerate it better, but I guess she didn't feel up to it this time. Then the phone rang. Mom answered, a spoon in one hand, the dirty Kleenex in the other. Hello? You what? You need me to come in? But I'm off today. I'm supposed to be in Washington, she paused. Long story. I cringed. Penny continued to howl. She ought to put Penny in the basement with the dog, I thought, frowning. Butterscotch scratched furiously at the basement door. Penny, please, Mom cried out, cupping her hand over the phone. I can't hear. Penny quieted a little, but only because she had squatted down on the floor to put both hands in Butterscotch's water bowl, sloshing water all over the floor. Mom listened for a minute, then said into the phone, "How bad is the accident? Lots of injuries?" "Okay, I understand. I'll be there, but I have to wait until I get my daughter on the school bus." She hung up the phone and sighed, squeezing the tissue into her fist. "I've got to go to the hospital, Chuck," she called out to Dad. "Big pile up on the freeway. Are you dressed and ready?" Dad came downstairs still in his pajamas. "I'm not going in today," he announced. "You almost never take the day off," Mom said, a surprised frown on her face. "My wrist is aching, the weather is awful, and Penny has a cold," he explained. "Why don't you just stay home with me today?" he said to me. But no, I kicked and shrieked and insisted on going to school. "Can't miss today," I pointed. "Must go, must go." Mom just put her head in her hands once more. "Get Penny out of the dog dish," and was all she finally said. Dad ripped a bunch of paper towels from the roll, cleaned up Penny's mess, and wiped her nose with a wet paper towel. That started her screaming again. Her screech became a shriek. That's when she reached up and knocked over the cup of orange juice on my tray. My clean blouse was a soppy mess. She did that on purpose, I thought angrily. Mom simply shrugged her shoulders and yanked off my shirt in one swift motion. She told Dad, "Melody is determined to show up at school. Why, I do not know, but she may as well go." I couldn't explain to them that I wanted to see Catherine. Somehow I felt like she'd talk to me and make me feel better. She's a college kid. She would know what to say. Besides, I had to give her that card today. It took Mom several minutes to find a new shirt for me until she remembered all the clean clothes in my suitcase. When she rolled that red suitcase into the kitchen, I looked at her, then looked away. I refused to cry anymore. For some reason, the bus came early that morning. I'd just gotten my clean shirt on, my book bag still needed to be packed with my lunch and Catherine's card, and I had to go to the bathroom. Even over the noise of all of the rain and thunder, the honk of the bus horn blared clearly. It always sounds like a goose in pain. I heard Dad open the front door to wave the driver on. He yelled, "Don't wake us! She's not ready!" The driver, a sandy haired guy who's been on this route for a couple years, beeped once more, then rumbled on. Gus is really cool and often waits a few minutes as parents hustle to get their children out of their houses. It just takes us longer sometimes to get it together in the morning. "Melody, baby, why don't you just stay home with Dad and Penny today? Please?" Mom asked as she lifted me off the toilet. "It's such an icky day." I kicked and cried out again, shaking my head. No, no, no. I didn't know why it was so important, but I knew I had to show up. Maybe I wanted to let everybody know what the team had done to me. I wasn't really sure. I only knew I had to go to school. Mom sighed and pulled up my jeans. When I got back in my chair, I pointed to thanks and Mom. She shook her head and stuffed my lunch into my book bag. The rain didn't seem to be letting up, so Mom took a deep breath and started the process of loading me into the car. When I ride the bus, I simply roll down our ramp, down the driveway, onto the bus lift, and into a special designed area of the bus that straps my chair into place. But when I ride in the car, it involves a whole process of taking apart and putting together me, my chair, and my stuff. Even with my manual chair, it's a pain. And Dad was no help. With his arm in a sling, he shrugged and tried to look like he was sorry he couldn't help out and lend Mom a hand. I think he was enjoying it a little, and that made Mom even more upset. The rain and wind, if anything, had gotten worse. Mom had draped a huge plastic raincoat over me and my chair and another one over herself, but in seconds the hoods had blown off and our heads were soaked. We headed slowly down the wheelchair ramp, the wind whipping at us and the rain attacking from all sides. I thought it was exciting. I never seen the sky so dark at 8 in the morning. The thunder and wind made it feel like a scene out of a really good movie. My hair is short and curly, and I think it looks sort of cute when it's wet. Good thing. Mom hates it when her hair gets wet. It gets stringy and limp. I gotta admit, Mom with wet hair should hide in a closet. She opened the car door on the passenger side, and the wind blew it shut. She did it again, this time using me and my chair as a doorstop. The front seat of the car, of course, was getting soaked. She lifted me into the seat and strapped me in and began the process of collapsing my chair. Fortunately, most of it is plastic and leather and metal, but I knew it would stay damp all day, even if somebody wiped it off real good when I got to school. Mom placed my chair along with my old communication board into the back of the SUV. When she shut the trunk, she slammed it hard. The rain continued to fall. By the time she scooted into the driver's seat, she was a dripping mess and in a terrible mood. "I wish I could go back to bed," she said grumpily as she put the key into the ignition. "My head is killing me. Why did I agree to go to work? I'm supposed to be off today with you in Washington," she sighed heavily. I kicked my legs in response, but only a little. I didn't want to upset her even more. That's when I glanced down and noticed she'd forgotten my book bag. Catherine's card! I reached over, grabbed Mom's arm, and pointed to my feet. What? She said, irritation in her voice. I kicked, I pointed, I grunted. Then I pointed to the house. Dad, who had changed into a thick gray sweats, was standing there at the front door, grinning, my denim book bag in his right hand. I could see Penny, still in her little yellow duck pajamas, now a yellow rain hat, standing behind him. She had Doodle and Mom's red umbrella in her hands. Lightning crackled, thunder followed, the rain poured. I watched Mom's hands tighten on the steering wheel. She made a noise that sounded like something, I would say almost a growl. Ugh! She flung open the door, stumped back into the storm, up the ramp, and then she snatched the book bag from Dad. She was sopping by the time she got back in the car. Dad waved his bandaged arm from the porch one last time, then turned and went back into the dryness of the house. I watched the front door almost closed. That's when I saw a small bundle of yellow dragging a red umbrella dart out of the house. I saw her for only a second, but I saw. I screamed. I kicked. I flailed my arms. The windows were almost completely fogged up, and they got even worse as I continued to act like I'd been possessed by demons. Mom looked at me as if I had lost my mind. She screamed at me, "Stop it! Are you crazy?" But I couldn't stop. I wouldn't. I banged on the car window, pulling Mom's shirt, hit her head. I pinched her, or at least tried to. "I can't take any more, Melody," Mom screamed over the thunder. "I hate it when you get like this. You've got to learn to control yourself. Now quit." But she put her hand on the keys to start the car. I screamed, reached over, and tried to pull the keys from her. I scratched the back of Mom's hand. She smacked me on my leg. She's never raised a hand to me before. Never. I still didn't stop screaming and kicking and jerking. I had to tell her. I had to tell her that Penny was out there. Never had I wanted words more. I was going out of my mind. "I'm taking you to school, and I hope they keep you," Mom mumbled under her breath. Angrily, she turned on the car. A rush of air started to clear the windows. The windshield wipers rocked at the fastest speed. I cried, huge, sobbing tears. I grabbed at Mom's arms once more, but all she did was shake my arms away. I could tell she felt like hitting me again, but she didn't. Her lips were tight. She looked out the rear view mirror. She put the car into reverse. I shrieked, I screeched, I yelled. The rain poured, the thunder roared. Slowly, the big car rolled backward. I felt the soft thud. I became deadly silent. Mom stopped, turning her head slowly to the left. Then she turned slowly to the right, almost as if in slow motion, as she saw Dad come running out of the house, a look of stark alarm in his face. "Penny!" I heard him yell. "Where's Penny?" Mom rolled the window down on my side. Rain poured in onto me, but I didn't care. "What do you mean?" "She's with you." Mom's voice was low, but sounded frantic and very, very scared. She got out of the car. She looked down. She screamed for a long, long time. Her screams were louder than the police sirens that eventually came shrieking around our corner, louder than the fire truck and ambulance sirens that followed them, louder than my silent cries. I sat there for what seemed like hours, basically forgotten, strapped in the front seat of the car as the rain poured in my open window. I ached with fear. Chapter 31. The air felt thick and damp like the silence that followed the screaming and crying and sirens. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. After Mom and Dad left with the ambulance, Mrs. V took me out of the car and sat me in my chair. She placed the soggy, filthy Doodle on my tray. "I found this under the car," she said, her voice shaky. I touched it and burst into tears. As she rolled me into the house, she said, "We're going to clean Doodle up and have him waiting for Penny when she comes home, you hear?" I couldn't tell if she was trying to convince me or herself. I felt dizzy and nauseous. I could not stop shaking. After changing my clothes into warm, dry sweats, she switched the radio to an easy listening station and turned the volume down low. The only color I heard was gray. Mrs. V stood behind me, gently rubbing my shoulders. "Are you hungry?" she asked. I shook my head no. She continued to massage my back and shoulders until we both could feel the tension slipping away. I'm going next door to get you your Medi talker and the dog, she said. You want anything else? I shook my head and continued to listen to the tones of smoky gray. When she got back, Butterscotch seemed nervous. She kept pacing and sniffing as if she was looking for something. I think she's looking for Penny, Mrs. V said. Dogs no. She hooked up Elvira to my chair and switched it on. But there was nothing either of us could say. It's not your fault, you know, she said finally. I shook my head forcefully. Mrs. V should know better than to say stuff just to make me feel better. I mean it, Melody. It's not your fault. Yes, it is, I replied on my talker. I turned the volume up loud. Mrs. V walked around to where I could see her, leaned down until her face was just inches from my own. You did your best to warn your mother. You should be proud of yourself. Not proud, not enough, I typed. Sometimes things happen that are beyond our control, Melody. You did everything right. The guilt bubbled up then. I was mad at Penny. I typed slower than usual. Penny knows you love her, she said. Tears slid down my cheeks. Made Mom take me to school. So what? The fact that you insisted on going to school even after what happened to you yesterday shows you are a strong person, a better person than anyone else there. I'm proud of you for that. Don't be. I'm sure Penny will be just fine, Mrs. V said then. But her voice said otherwise. For the first time I could remember, Mrs. V sounded unsure. Will she die? I had to know. She was alive and breathing when the ambulance took her. I'm going to believe that's still the case. Toddlers are very resilient, you know. I had to know something else. Her brain messed up? I asked. I had seen enough television shows on brain trauma to know it was possible. My classmate Jill had been in a car accident. I couldn't bear to see Penny like that. Mrs. V answered thoughtfully and honestly. I suppose it's possible, but I pray that's not the case. Two broken kids, I typed. Just the idea almost made me gag. That's not going to happen, Melody. But Mrs. V's voice wavered. I heard it. I was still for a moment, then I typed, It should have been me. Huh? What do you mean? Nobody would miss me. Now you just stop stupid talk like that. My whole world would fall apart if something happened to you. Your parents as well. I'm not sure I believed her. I tilted my head. Really? I typed, I plan to wear purple to your college graduation. Far away and very hard. Like making the quiz team? They left me. And they lost. I glanced out of her large picture window and watched the wet branches sway. How could I say it? I looked back at my talker and typed very slowly. I want to be like other kids. So you want to be mean and fake and thoughtless? I looked up at her angry face, then looked away. No, normal. Normal sucks, she roared. People love you because you're Melody, not because of what you can or cannot do. Give us a little credit. I want it to be yesterday, I typed. Yesterday your heart was broken because they left you behind, remember? Rather have that than this. I know, oh Melody, I know. I'm scared. Me too. The silent room echoed our thoughts. I had a goldfish. He jumped out of his bowl, I typed then. I remember your mom telling me about that. I tried to save him. I couldn't. The phone rang then, startled both of us. I jerked in my chair. Mrs. V picked it up. Yes, she said. I strained to listen. Oh no, she said. My heart dropped beneath my chair. She listened for a long time. Oh yes, she said finally. Then she burst into tears and hung up. Is Penny dead? I typed. The word was spinning. Mrs. V wiped her eyes, looked at me, and took a deep breath. She has some internal injuries, a badly broken leg, but she survived the surgery. She's gonna live. Then she cried once more. Normal doesn't suck at all. Chapter 32. It's Monday, so I have to return to school today. The temperature has dropped and the sun is glowing like some kind of frosted golden jewel, yet everything feels different and not quite right. Mom spent the weekend at the hospital with Penny, sleeping on a cot in her room. I have not seen her since, well, since everything changed. I wonder if Mom is mad at me. Mrs. V comes over and helps me get dressed and fed. Even Butterscotch seems to miss Penny. She puts her head in my lap and looks at me with lonely eyes. I can't help her. Dad is a mess. He keeps dropping things like forks and keys. He starts to talk, then forgets what he was going to say. He hasn't shaved. Go and get yourself together, Chuck, Mrs. V finally tells him. A hot shower and a cold glass of orange juice will do you wonders. When you go see Penny this morning, you don't want to scare the child, do you? Oh, you're right, Dad replies. You've got Melody covered. I'll see she gets on the bus. Now scoot. He bounds up the stairs to the bathroom. Penny better? I tap on my board. Yes, oh yes. When I spoke to your mom this morning, she told me that they have taken her off the IV already. Penny was eating applesauce, complaining about her cast, and asking for doodle, which I've got cleaned up and ready for her. Penny is going to be fine. Melody, just fine. I inhaled deeply. Mrs. V spoon eggs into my mouth but my stomach roils with worry. Her leg, I ask? Her leg is in a cast, but it's big and clunky and will annoy the heck out of her. But the doctor have said that when she gets stronger, she'll even be able to walk with it. I'm glad Mrs. V is always straight up with me. Wheelchair? I can't think of anything worse than a teeny baby wheelchair. No, they want her to move around as much as possible. I breathe a sigh of relief. Her head? I ask. Mrs. V understands. No brain damage, Melody. None. I exhale slowly. You sure? I spell out. Absolutely. I saw her myself last night. She bumped her head when she fell, but the car hit her leg. It didn't touch her head at all. The school bus honks then, so Mrs. V wheels me down the drive to meet it. She checks my backpack, adjusts my foot strap, and gives me a big hug. You ready, Melody? Ready to face the quiz team? I nod. After what had almost happened, facing a bunch of snotty fifth graders will be easy. Gus looks at me with concern as he lowers the bus lift. How's your little sister? He asks me. That is so scary. Gonna be okay, I type. Thanks. I realize right then that news like that travels fast. Everybody at school will probably know as well. Gus wheels me onto the lift and pushes the button to raise it as I wave goodbye to Mrs. V. The ride to school is strangely quiet, none of the usual squeaks and grunts from the students who ride the special bus. When we get to school, the air is chilly, so the aides take us directly to room H5. As we get settled, I look at my friends there through different eyes. Freddie, who wants to zoom to the moon, Ashley, our fashion model, Willie, the baseball expert, Maria, who has no enemies, Gloria, the music lover, Carl, our resident gourmet, Jill, who might have once been like Penny. Not one of them even knows how to be mean. And me, the dreamer who tries to escape from H5, a kid with a computer named Elvira. I don't even know where I belong anymore. Catherine comes in then, wearing a new outfit that is actually cute and stylish, tan slacks, black sweater, and a vest. Nice outfit, I tell her. Thanks, and I did it all by myself. I have something for you. I point to my book bag. She reaches into my bag, digs around, and finds the card that almost led to tragedy. After she reads it, she blinks back tears. No, Melody, thank you. She leans over and hugs me. Then she looks serious and says, Mrs. Valencia called and told me all about what happened with your little sister. How's she doing? Better, I type. You know, you probably saved her life, Catherine tells me. What? Seriously, your screaming and yelling slowed your mother down, gave her time to figure out why you were acting like you had hot potatoes in your pants. Could not stop Mom. I stab out on my machine. You did exactly the right thing. I'm so proud of you. Really? Really, especially after all you've been through at the airport. You want to talk about it? No, I type and look away. Maria comes over to my chair and gives me a big hug. You did good, Melly Belly, she says. Real good. I'm not sure if she's talking about the quiz team or something else, but my eyes got all drippy and my nose starts to run. I wish I could have give her a big squeeze back to let her know how good she made me feel, but I just tap, thanks. I'm never sure how much Freddie is aware of what's going on in the world around him. He surprises me when he zips over to me and says, Melly, go Zoom and plane? He looks excited, maybe even envious. No, Freddie, I type. No plane, no Zoom. His face scrunches up into sadness, then he drives away. Mrs. Shannon comes over next and squats beside me. Your head must be near about ready to explode from all that happened in the past few days. Boom, I type, but I don't feel like smiling. Let's talk at lunch, okay, Melody? Okay. Are you going into your inclusion classes? She asked. Yes, I tap. I thought about this all weekend. When I wasn't thinking about Penny, I decided I wasn't going to hide. I want you to know I'm very proud of you. She gives me a big thumbs up, then gets our morning routine going. As it turns out, Miss Gordon is absent today, so the first inclusion class I'm set to attend is Mr. Dimmings. Are you sure you want to go? Catherine asked me. Instead of answering, I power my chair toward Mr. D's room. Catherine rests a hand on my shoulder as I whirl in. A small brass-colored trophy sits on Mr. D's desk. The room is quieter than normal. Mr. Dimming clears his throat. He shifts from one foot to the other. He runs his finger around the collar of his dim white shirt. He's back to his old, well-worn brown suits. His old shoes as well. Finally, he says, Hello, Melody. His voice sounds fake cheerful. I do not reply. He wiggles so much he looks like he has to go to the bathroom. I just watch him. No kicks from me, no weird sounds. I am amazingly calm. I glance over at Rose, but she is looking in the other direction. No one seems to know what to say. At last, I break the silence. I turn the volume up loud on my machine, then type out, Why did you leave me? Somebody should have been there with a video camera providing that, yes, a fifth grade classroom can be absolutely totally quiet. Faces search other faces, each one willing each one willing another to speak. Eventually, Rose stands up. She looks directly at me and says, "We didn't plan to leave you, Melody. Honest." I look her dead in the eye and wait. I don't react at all. I just wait. She continues, We all went out to breakfast early that morning." I interrupt. "Nobody told me about that. How come?" None of them answer. Their silence says what their words cannot. It's better without me. I blink real fast. Claire finally stammers, "We figured you'd slow us down because you have to be fed and stuff." It's so quiet, I swear I can hear my own heartbeat. "You threw up. Nobody left you." "Oh, snap," I hear Rodney whisper. Claire stares down at her desk. "You took my place?" Claire lifts her hand slightly, but she won't look at me. Rose scrapes at a spot in her history book. "We finished breakfast really fast because we were all excited, so we got to the airport extra early." Connor stands up then. He looks uncomfortable. "So when we got to the airport, they told us that the noon flight had just been canceled, but that we could make the early flight if we hurried." Molly speaks next. "So we checked our stuff real fast, then rushed, ran like track stars, even Mr. Dimming, down to the gate to get that early flight." "Nobody thought about me?" I ask. Silence again. Finally, Rodney says, "I did. I was the first one to board the plane. Just as I gave my boarding pass to the agent, I reminded Mr. Dimming that you were missing." Mr. Dimming again twists from one foot to the other. "I was so busy trying to count heads and check seat assignments and deal with everybody's carry-on bags, so I asked the kids to call you at home. I knew Rose at least had your number in her cell phone." All eyes shift to Rose. She looks at the floor, then slowly she looks at me. A tear runs down her cheek. "You couldn't have made it there in time anyway. I picked up my phone to call you. I flipped it open, then I looked at the rest of the kids on the team." She pauses. I could imagine them standing there thinking about the chance to be on Good Morning America with that huge trophy and me. Rose continues in a whisper. "We looked at each other. Everyone made just a tiny head shake no. All of them?" I shiver. Rose sniffles and whispers finally. "So I closed the phone and we got on the plane. I never made the call." How can silence be so loud? Mr. Dimming finally says quietly, "I'm so very sorry, Melody. So sorry." Rose bursts into tears, then put her head down on her desk. "Just before the competition," Molly explains, "a reporter from the Washington Post came to interview the team, but he left when he found out you weren't there." Connor walks up to the front of the room, then picks up the ninth place trophy and brings it to me. He stammers and licks his lips. The team kind of wants you to have this, Melody, sort of to make up." He places it on my tray. The thing is small, made of cheap plastic that has been painted to look like metal. The name of the school is even spelled wrong on the faceplate. I look at the ugly little statue and I start to giggle. Then I crack up. Finally, I roll with laughter. My hand jerks out and hits the trophy. I'm not sure if it was an accident or not, and it falls to the floor, breaking into several pieces. The class stares at me in surprise. When they see that I'm not going to go ballistic on them, they finally start to laugh as well, a little. Even Rose sniffs and smiles. "I don't want it," I finally type. Then turned the volume as loud as it will go. I add, "You deserve it." Still laughing, I click on the power to my chair, do a smooth turn, and I roll myself out of the classroom. Chapter 33. Fifth grade is probably pretty rocky for lots of kids. Homework, never being quite sure if you're cool enough, clothes, parents, wanting to play with toys and wanting to be grown up all at the same time, underarm odor. I guess I have all that, plus about a million different layers of other stuff to deal with. Making people understand what I want, worrying about what I look like, fitting in. Will a boy ever like me? Maybe I'm not so different from everyone else after all. It's like somebody gave me a puzzle, but I don't have the box with the picture on it. So I don't know what the final thing is supposed to look like. I'm not even sure if I have all the pieces. That's probably not a good comparison, since I couldn't put a puzzle together if I wanted to. Even though I usually know the answers to most of the questions at school, lots of stuff still puzzles me. Penny came home from the hospital with bumps and bruises, a cast, a new red hat. Doodle is back in her arms. They're spoiling her rotten. That's okay with me. Even Butterscotch is treating Penny like she's an injured puppy. The dog has brought all of her favorite stuffed toys into Penny's room, like gifts. Today, I'm working on Miss Gordon's autobiography project. Mrs. V has Elvira plugged into the computer. Classical music is softly seeping from her new iPod. I hear soft purple. This is going to take a while. So much is stuffed inside my mind. I have lots to say, and just one thumb to say it with. I guess I'll start at the very beginning. Words. I'm surrounded by thousands of words, maybe millions. Cathedral, mayonnaise, pomegranate, Mississippi, Neapolitan, hippopotamus, silky, terrifying, iridescent, tickle, sneeze, wish, worry. Words have always swirled around me like snowflakes, each one delicate and different, each one melting untouched in my hands. Deep within me, words pile up in huge drifts, mountains of phrases and sentences and connected ideas, clever expressions, jokes, love songs. From the time I was really little, maybe just a few months old, words were like sweet liquid gifts, and I drank them like lemonade. I could almost taste them. They made my jumbled thoughts and feelings have substance. My parents have always blanketed me with conversation. They chattered and babbled, they verbalized and vocalized. My father sang to me, my mother whispered her strength into my ear. Every word my parents spoke to me or about me, I absorbed and kept and remembered. All of them. I have no idea how I untangled the complicated process of words and thoughts, but it happened quickly and naturally. By the time I was 2, all of my memories had words, and all of my words had meanings, but only in my head. I have never spoken one single word. I am almost 11 years old. The end.